Thank you for auditing, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who encourages you to write what you know. I'm going to be reviewing the second half of Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift, the Anthology, everything that comes after Clara Bow when you stream the album. I really believe that there's, two different halves to this project, and one is the sort of complete Tortured Poets Department, which I reviewed and a lot of you have watched, so thank you for all that support. And then this is really just the rest, the bonus stuff. And before I get started talking about it, I need to clear up a few things from my last review. So first of all, it turns out she's 34 years old, not 37. I kept saying she's 37 years old. I don't know why. I think I get her mixed up with Kendrick. I didn't emphasize enough the brilliance of one line, so if you didn't see the review, it's basically me just for an hour going, "This is a good lyric." But I didn't really emphasize its hell on earth being heavenly. Just how important that is to the general thesis of what I see as one of the theses of the album, being that of how terrible it is to be idolized, how terrible it is to be this figure of femininity and beauty, and that it really is hell on earth being heavenly because you're dehumanized. So I really should have emphasized that more. Just a reminder of what a great album that was. Lorenzo1425 commented and drew a parallel between Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers and this album. Like, they're both overlong. They're both considered flops by people who don't really understand what they're doing. They're both going towards discussing the dehumanizing effects of fame and the desire to resist being treated as some kind of messiah. It's a great idea, and I wish I had it. So props to you, Lorenzo. Maybe you'll become a music reviewer, and I'll link to your video. And there's one thing I didn't emphasize too much, which is I addressed a lot of the controversies and a lot of the criticisms of this project. And number one was just these lyrics are cringy. I don't think they are. I think the problem is that people are stupid. So I think they see the title, Tortured Poets Department, and they just take the first part seriously. And they think that Taylor Swift is calling herself a tortured poet, which she's not. And they think that tortured poetry has a certain sound, and therefore any lyrics which go against their minimal conception of what a tortured poet is inevitably wrong and cringy. I think she is weirdly playful, especially on the second half. And I think that's maybe like if you ever watch movie reviewers, often they'll go at tone, like when movies don't have a consistent tone. This album is a very dark album, both halves. It's very dark, very kind of sad, but there's a kind of goofiness in the lyrics. And I think sometimes people can confuse that lightness with superficiality and cringe, and I don't believe they are. But what is this? What am I talking about with these 16 songs here? What does it mean? What does it mean to release an album and then release another album, but not, right? You can't buy the second half of this album physically, but you can buy the first half of this album in 7 different versions with different colors and different bonus tracks and different pictures and all that stuff. Is this material, the second half, what I'm just going to call the anthology tracks, are the anthology tracks lesser than? Are they accompaniments? Are they just leftovers? The term anthology itself is, I looked it up just out of curiosity. She is a poet, and poets love etymology. And logia means collection, and anthos means flowers. So it is a collection of flowers, and all these things are all together. And what I think these anthology songs really help me to understand is that first volume really is cohesive. There's maybe 1 or 2 songs on this other stuff, this anthology material, which might fit into the other half. But my general theory that Tortured Poets Department is about being used by society and by men and the kind of regret and darkness that comes after that, I think that whole thesis holds up very strong for part 1. And part of the reason it fits for part 1 is that it doesn't fit for part 2. But then, what is she doing? What is this stuff? Is it just content? Do you know what content is? Did you know content didn't exist as a term? We just didn't use this term. You were an artist, you were a movie maker, you were an essayist, you were an author. At a certain point in the last 10 years, since streaming took over, we have more or less accepted the usage of this word content, that all artistic creation is reduced to units of consumable content. Think of it like you ever see a horse with a feed bag? You ever have that image? So like get the horse and it's got if you're in New York City or whatever, it's got one of those little like buckets for the poop in the back, but in the front it'll have just this bag and unintentional ASMR. We're just Uncle Mo's family feed bag. We're just sitting there eating content. And Netflix and Spotify are the same thing. In this great economy, we're just reducing everything to more feed, more oats in the bag. Which in theory is the enemy of art. Which in theory is offensive. I don't like considering this to be content. This is the best possible effort I can put forth to describe music in an interesting and intellectually engaging way that is in keeping with my education and my general ability to synthesize and public speak. It's not content. But it is. It is content. It is monetized. Someone's making money off this. Someone's making a little off of this. Someone's making a lot off of this. It is part of this whole system. So the fact that she released all these songs as physical albums, which, by the way, I would be holding up. I did go to Record Store Day, but the record was $45. And listen, I love supporting record stores, and I spend over $100 at the Record Archive a month, so I'm okay. But I couldn't justify spending $45 for one vinyl. It was too much. Anyways, that physical thing exists, but that's just one source of revenue. So every time an artist gets a click, every time an artist gets a play, they get a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a cent, right? That's how it works. And it was actually the Migos, the rap group the Migos, with their project Culture 2. They figured out that if they had more tracks, then they'd get more clicks. So that's when pop albums, and especially rap albums, got more and more and more and more bloated. That's when I think it actually changed the art to where it became more background and less noticeable from track to track. If you listen to a Drake album, it can be hard to figure out if you're listening to song number 2 versus song number 32, because it doesn't really matter, because it's basically just content. It's just units of Drake. So maybe part of the reason that people don't digest this project as well is that selling it together, packaging it all together with these 31 songs, and then having them all be this very consistent atmosphere, very kind of, there's like 2 or 3 audio atmospheres. You kind of go between kind of gentle, warm indie folk and a kind of synth pop. That's it. Those are the two atmospheres that you have. And then lyrically and thematically, we're not going for bops. We're not going for flops. We're just kind of going for this kind of even keel. It can feel like this is just 31 units of Taylor, 31 units of content. Now, if we are to accept this premise, the worst case scenario, I would say, if this is the way she's going to be going forward, when I think of the best content creator examples, I think of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Have you ever watched that show? It's very funny. It's like the longest running live action sitcom, and they just keep going. And some of their episodes are as good as they were 15 years ago. Some of them are better. Some of them are worse. We can just say, they're just cranking out episodes and just getting that syndication money and just doing that. Or we can just be in awe that they're still creating and that they're still making great stuff. So I think that's the floor. Is that a weird comparison? I think it is. Anthology. What are these songs about? I've been thinking a lot. Hey, I've been thinking a lot about Taylor Swift over the past weekend. And in particular, what fascinates me is the legibility of her themes. You don't listen to a Taylor Swift song and by the end of the first listen go, what was that song about? Like, she delivers it to you. And I'm not saying this in a simplistic way. She delivers complex themes, complex songs, complex stories. but she has a clarity of her voice, a clarity of melody, a clarity of production, a clarity of theme, to the point where you know what these things are about. And that's why I find this album so interesting, and why I think it had to exist the way that it is that it's sort of 3 albums in one. It's kind of 3 separate themes put together into one. I made a visual for you, okay? These are the these are the 3 themes. I actually went onto Google and found the exact font. I think it's called Connell. The exact font that is used for Tortured Poets. So the first theme is what I call theme A. That's Heartbreak. That's essentially just the continuation from the first part, okay? The songs that are A could probably be on the first half. But it's the other 2 themes that I find most interesting. Theme B is the magic woman. It's where Taylor is kind of an oracle or a prophet or a subject of a prophet. Something magical is happening. And if you know anything about magic, magic is not good or bad. It just is. And that's her position as kind of a magical woman. And I think if you took these songs out and made an EP of just these songs and called it Taylor Swift Magic Woman, it would work. And then maybe the richest of all of them is this theme of nostalgia. There's so much nostalgia on this album. There's so much like looking backwards at the way things were and the way life was, but in a beautiful way that is anti-romantic, which is what bridges it together with Tortured Poets Department Part 1. As a brief reminder, romanticism does not mean I love you, kiss you, kiss you, kiss you. Romantic means living your life as though you are in a novel. When you have romantic ideals, it is that you see yourself as being a part of some great, grand event, that you're just living some kind of fantastical life. Realism is the opposite of romanticism, and a lot of people throughout the history of novels and art have been attacking romanticism because it often leads to sort of a fake existence. Nostalgia is a romantic ideal, and throughout this album, Taylor Swift dismantles nostalgia. She brings it up, she talks about it, but she also dismantles it. So it's a fascinating project. And as a reminder, the title itself, Tortured Poets Department, is an anti-romantic title. Tortured Poets is a romantic ideal. Department is like, I am the chair of my department in the college, okay? There's the Department of Public Works. It is a bureaucratic structure. It is the opposite of romantic. This whole thing is trying to destroy romanticism. There's also a weird competition going on here. So, frequent viewer and commenter of the channel, Our Family in Motion, what's up, Our Fam? I don't know what to call you. Took great issue with my review, only because I said that Antonoff is a better producer than Dessner. I stand by that because I'm thinking of Antonoff as the person who also produced Clairo, and also produced Lorde, and also produced St. Vincent, and also produced Lana Del Rey. Like, Antonoff's history of production is just stupid. But I do think it's fair to say that perhaps Aaron Dessner is a more interesting producer for Taylor Swift. But when we look at these 2 projects, again, that's what I said. On Volume 1, I said this isn't a question of Joe Alwyn versus Matt Healy. This is a question of Jack Antonoff versus Dessner. Part 2 is an inversion. It's an inversion in terms of who's producing what. Part 1 is the Antonoff side. Part 2 is the Dessner side. Part 1 had 11 Antonoff songs, 4 Dessner songs, and 1 shared. Okay? Part 2 has 4 Antonoff songs, 10 Dessner songs, and 1 shared. Right? So 4 Dessner on the first, 4 Antonoff on the second, then the rest by the other. Which I think is why we can really say that Anthology is like a different album, because he produces this differently than Antonoff would. Which is why her decision to release them at the same time is so confusing. Like, what if she had pulled a Metro and Future and just released Part B a week from now, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or a month, or 6 months, like she did with Folklore and Evermore? She easily could have done it. She could have done it like that. I have a theory. I think she's done. I think she's done with this. I think this was an era, and I think she's done with it. I think this kind of mourning, this kind of moment, I think she's done with it. So I think she's trying not to extend it out. I think it's an artistic decision. My biggest complaint about this album my baby is not a fan. So my baby she's teething, she's like 60 months old, and she loves music. She loves drums. And my wife was like, put on some music that she'd like. And I've been listening to the Taylor Swift stuff, so I put this on. And my baby just never stopped crying. So I had to put on Grinding by Clips. She loves that song, any song with drums. Because there's no drums on this album. I mean, okay, there's a little bit of drums. But if there's one complaint I have, it is just, I just wish there was a little bit more drums. But that's not a real complaint. If you like this video, smash the like bucket and subscribe. Someone told me it's called the like button. It's not true. Look it up. It's called the like bucket, and you must smash it if you like what you see. You can hit the bell if you wish. Not really sure about that. If you like what you see and you type in AVAA, that stands for awesome video as always, and I will always heart a comment that says that. Okay? So let's get to it. I don't really have an example stamp because what I want to do is take you through the 3 different modes of this album. Okay? The Heartbreak, the Magic Woman, and the Nostalgia. And we're going to start off with the first track, Antonov. We start off with an Antonov track, and I think this is on purpose. I think this is creating some kind of little interplay where I'm turning into Charlie Day here, like all of the conspiracy. So side 1 ended with Dessner. Dessner ended Antonov's volume. Now Antonov begins Dessner's volume. Okay. And even thematically, it's a transition from the last one because it's this very kind of bitter song. These pianos grow with the verse, very simple muted music. And then we have these super duper killer lyrics. And then we have, it's playful. It's actually playful. It's a sad song, but it's playful because it makes reference. Okay, let me tell you what the song's about. So it's about the bar, the Black Dog, which I think is on Martha's Vineyard. I grew up in Massachusetts. I saw preppy jerks wearing the Black Dog t-shirts all the time. I don't really know what it is, but it's like a famous bar, I think, in Martha's Vineyard. So it's about her seeing on her Jeep, like she location sharing with her ex-boyfriend, and so she sees that he's at the Black Dog, and then she imagines him being there, hearing an emo song, and then that emo song being from so long ago that the woman who he's dancing with now doesn't know that song. So implying the age gap, okay? You see how it's also kind of nostalgia? We're sort of tying into nostalgia as well here. It's about heartbreak, but it's also about the fact that she's talking about this song and the way that it connects to her when she was young, and about the fact that she won't be able to relate to it, right? That's a thing that happens in different age gaps, just like, you what? Like I once dated a woman who's 11 years older than me, and like very often she would make references and talk about things, and I'd just be like, I just don't know what that is. I mean, I pay a lot of attention to culture, but I never had a pet rock. I don't know what that is. I don't understand the reference. So that's just all like the depths that we have there is beautiful. There's a couple beautiful things about it. One, it's, see this guy back here? Serge Gainsbourg, one of my favorite singers, French guy. And he has a song called Talkie Walkie. That's how you say walkie-talkie in French. J'avais dans ma possession un talkie-walkie made in Japan. And it's a whole song about having a walkie-talkie and sharing it with his girlfriend. But what he didn't know was that one night when he was trying to get a hold of her, she left her walkie-talkie on. And do you know what he heard on the other end of the walkie-talkie? This is like 1961, 1962, before cell phones, right? What does he hear? Sighs and words of love. He hears his girlfriend banging another guy on the walkie-talkie. On the talkie-walkie. Beautiful. Awesome song. Heartbreak technology, right? And it's beautiful because it ties in together with the fact that location sharing is a very modern thing. And so she's experiencing this technological pain, this new pain that could not exist. It could not exist without this technological invention, just like his pain couldn't exist without the talkie-walkie, right? It's awesome. And it you feel that pain. And then we have this guy, this ex, who's dancing with a girl who doesn't even know this emo song. And she, like we're living in this world, and then the emo song goes back to a time from before location sharing, right? And just a little bit, they hint there's going to be an emo break. There's going to be an emo break, but they never actually go for it. It's great. Old habits die screaming. She's just got to keep... Poor Swifties out there. They're running out of space on their body to tattoo Taylor's little sayings. When I was listening to this, I was sort of like, wait a minute. Is Taylor Swift always emo? Is she an emo artist? Like something about the emphasis and the way that she sings and she emphasizes words. Like you could actually do like emo covers of Taylor songs and just be just fine. Okay, next track is called I'm Gonna Get You Back. Another Antonov song. We're kind of weaning our way into the Destiner world. Olivia Rodrigo owes a lot to Taylor Swift, okay? She does. But Olivia Rodrigo did this song better last year. I don't know what to tell you. I'm Gonna Get Him Back was the kind of pop banger that this... Get Him Back was a pop banger with the same play on words that getting someone back can be like getting them back into your bed or getting revenge on them. Like this exact same thing was done by Nigro and Olivia Rodrigo last year. Like this exact same joke. And I'm not even necessarily saying it's better, but it's just a reminder of what Taylor Swift is not trying to do with this album. I mean, this is maybe the poppiest bit on this anthology, but it's just kind of muted, pulsing synths. You know, like short skirt fits me like skin. All that. I mean, it's kind of catchy. Nice little, like, what makes this song great are these kind of little production details, like little ethereal, like, voice and chorus effects. Like, that's what makes it fascinating. Not, gonna get him back. Next track is called The Albatross. Now we're finally in Destiner country. Simple guitar. So, like, it's hard to describe the music on this album because it's not bad and it's not anonymous. It's just so subtle. It's so subtle. And one thing our culture hates, it's subtlety. It's just really, we despise it because you feel stupid. Subtle things make you feel stupid because if you don't get it, then you're like, oh, but I get everything. I'm smart. Not like people say. This is obviously a reference to the play by, the epic poem by Coleridge, The Albatross. If you've never Rime of the Ancient Mariner. If you've never read it, it's this whole story about a guy who kills an albatross, and that's like a bad thing to do when you're a sailor, and it brings all this bad luck. True story. The weird thing is, there's a great album by a band called English Teacher. Please go listen to it. It's some of the best rock and roll that's come out this year. Female lead singer, if that encourages you to listen to it more. They're out of Leeds in England. Just awesome. Really, and they have a song called Albatross. So I got to tell the story that my second band in high school was called Albatross with Bill Doobie in Santiago. We were okay. We did a version of Purple Haze that was a little too precise. And this is that magic woman. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you. And albatross in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner has this great ability, this magical power to destroy. And it's not true, right? But that's the feeling, that she is here to destroy you and she is terrible danger. I want to emphasize again, this is not to be confused with Anti-Hero off of Midnights. This is not her kind of like, I'm just being bad. This is different. This is like, she is basically taking on the position of someone who understands that she is being treated like a witch, like somebody who is capable of just great malignance by her very existence. Track 3. Okay, so we had I'm Gonna Get You Back, and we had Black Dog, which are both in the Heartbreak era, right? Then we have Albatross, which is a little bit more the magic woman. And then we get to Chloe or Sam or Sophie or Marcus. And here we're going back to the Heartbreak. We're going to be sticking in the Heartbreak here for a little bit longer. Nice chords, little like Bon Ivory style flourish at the end of the phrase. Ba-ding, ba-dum, ba-ding, ba-dum. She uses a term. She says, I can't unabsorb something. If you watched my last video, which I hope you did, statistically you probably did. In that last video, I was obsessing over the term unrecollect. Right? Unrecall. That's not the same thing as forgetting. Unabsorbing is not the same as resisting. It's like to reverse the process of absorbing the pain. If you want to break my cold, cold heart, just say I loved you the way that you were. If you want to break my heart, say that you will always wonder. I've seen people criticize her for being too fanciful, too fancy with her words on this album. No. Say I loved you the way you were. Simple, awesome, heartbreaking, powerful lyrics. That you need headphones, by the way. This song you need to listen to on headphones. We're going to continue. Okay, we're almost... Did I even give you the breakdown of how the songs work on here? Yeah, so the way it works is there's a total of 6 songs about heartbreak, 3 songs about mystical women, and 6 songs about nostalgia. They all kind of mix together. So we're almost done with the heartbreak songs, the songs that might have fit on the first half. With How Did It End? More piano-led, it's a little more chord-based, as opposed to like individual notes. Nice haunting voice in the background. Some interesting gender swapping here. He was a hothouse flower to my outdoorsman, taking this position, seeing herself as being more burly in their relationship. Guess who I ran into walking circles at the shop? And maybe this is why people are mad. Again, I talked about this on the last video, but we had this image of her as America's sweetheart jumping up and down at the Super Bowl, right? And then here she is trying to get us to believe that she's walking around circles in the shop. Well, it can be true emotionally. That can be true emotionally. You can be publicly fun and privately sad. You should try it sometime. Next time you feel really sad, whenever you see people in a professional environment, pretend to be happy. Have you ever done that? Have you ever not done that? You hypocrites. I wonder if she just saw the TV show Fleischman in Trouble. This reminds me of a scene in Fleischman in Trouble. If you haven't seen it, don't. It's really good. That show is so good. But you think this stuff is depressing. Sitting in a Tree, D-Y-I-N-G. Just more clever, funny inversions of childish things. Again, nostalgia is all the way throughout this project, the more I'm thinking about it, right? Because Sitting in a Tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G, that's tied into our thoughts of childhood rhymes, but here it's Sitting in a Tree, D-Y-I-N-G. Then we get to the first major nostalgia piece, So High School. Another Dessner one, kind of 90s guitar style, 90s style drum machine. Why does it sound like this? Much like on Black Dog, they tried to do a little bit of emo sound for the song that's talking a little bit about emo music. We are having a song that sounds a little bit like it might be from the 90s. A beautiful term that she just throws out there, Bittersweet 16. I promise this review is not going to be me just saying good lyrics over and over and over again. But Bittersweet 16 is beautiful because that's the truth of nostalgia. If you look back nostalgically and just see the past as sweet, first of all, you're like this close from being a fascist, so be careful. Because fascism and nostalgia are very closely attached. If you can't remember the bitterness of your youth or the bitterness of the past, then you're really in trouble. Like you're in big emotional trouble. Like if you just think like, my childhood was the best, and that's the way you think of it, you're in big trouble. You need to be in touch with the bitter that was on there with the sweet. I think about my childhood and I think about the happy memories, but I also have that bitterness. I also have that, It's a nice image, watching American Pie on a Saturday night. I'm too old to have watched American Pie on a Saturday night. But I imagine that for a large portion of our audience, and I got this in my comments, a lot of people who responded to this said, it seems that maybe some of the older Taylor Swift fans appreciate this album more than the younger ones because it's maybe more mature in its themes. And this itself is like a 20-year-old kid is not going to relate to watching American Pie on a Saturday night. That's just not the kind of things. Do kids even get together and watch movies on Saturday nights? My kids didn't. Like maybe once. Whereas she's describing a time where it was more there. So it's a nice little millennial nostalgia packet. Very fun and simple. This could be a big single if it were produced different. Touch Me While Your Bros Play Grand Theft Auto. Do you know how many times I've seen people quote this as a bad lyric? Are you out of your mind? This is like the best lyric. Touch me while your bros play Grand Theft Auto? How real does that feel? That totally feels real. That totally feels like a thing that happened. It feels also to me like this is a perfect companion to Lana Del Rey's video games. It's that same sense of like there she is and she's in this kind of very male situation and she's kind of trapped, but then she's trying to have this kind of emotional sexual connection with somebody. It's great. You're wrong. If you think that's a bad lyric, I'm sorry. You're wrong. It's playful, and it's a playful lyric in an unplayful album. And so I get that. But Touch Me While Your Bros Play Grand Theft Auto. Man, I can't believe people don't like that. What do you want from lyrics? How much more memorable can you be? Next track's called I Hate It Here. More kind of Bon Ivory, haunting guitar, maybe even sort of Bruce Springsteen-y. I had tickets to see Bruce Springsteen in Syracuse last week, and I didn't go because I'm too busy. That sucked. It's the second time I had tickets to see Bruce, and I didn't see him. I have seen him once. But another beautiful nostalgia theme. It falls perfectly on the last one, and it's on the impossibility of happiness, and it's on the nature of being content. Oh, am I playing around with words here? Because I'm asking, is this just content? And I'm saying content? Yeah, I am. I'm playing with words here. But contentedness is like being happy with where you are, is having gratitude for where you are. We live in a society, we live in a culture that very, very, very much monetizes and encourages constant feelings of unhappiness. That's how they get money from us. They want us to be unhappy with where we are. They want us to be thinking about how things could be better, because the way things can be better is if we buy things, okay? So, this idea is part of why nostalgia is so intoxicating. Because we're constantly sold that we should be unhappy with where we are if we just had a better car, if we just had a better house, if we just had a better shirt, if we just whatever. If we just had these better things, we'd be happier. And our modern life is so complex that we think back to times when things were simpler, like when we just would get together and watch American Pie on a Saturday night. You know, we think back. I'd play Mario Kart with my friends at the apartment in Watertown, and we play for hours and just pick the tracks randomly, but always end with Rainbow Road, okay? And I'd always race as Bowser, and I'd always win, except for all the times I lost, okay? Like, that feeling of things being simple. When you remove the bitter and you just keep the sweet. Okay, well, I don't insert the fact that when I was playing Mario Kart, I was desperately lonely. I'd still never been on a date with a girl. I was really mad at my parents, and I felt really alienated, and I was working at Blockbuster Video, and I was going to go to college the next year. I was taking a year off so my band could make it, but we weren't even really trying to make it, and I was just a float. I was just a float on the universe. Just nothing. Just an absolute nobody with no prospects. Complete and total loser. Okay? Poor little Skye, but I also remember really enjoying playing Mario Kart. So nostalgia is this really tricky thing. And what's fascinating is the way that nostalgia is weaponized. It's often weaponized by conservative forces because they want to conserve the way things are, and the easiest way to conserve things the way they are is to say they should go back to the way they were before they changed. So undo women's rights, undo civil rights, all those things. That's why these things are so connected. That's why fascists used nostalgia, because they go back to some kind of imagined past where things were better, but they were better for the people who were saying they were better. The 1980s were better for mediocre white guys. They were. It's way better being a mediocre white guy in the 80s, even in the 90s. But now, if you're a mediocre white guy, it's not as easy. So mediocre white guys are the easiest people to fool into nostalgia bait and to get trapped into it because they used to have that power. Which brings us all the way into this song, this verse, which I've also seen used as an excuse, a reason for why Taylor Swift is bad now. My friends used to play a game where we'd pick a decade. We wished we could live in instead of this. I'd say the 1830s, but without the racists, and getting married off for the highest bid. Everyone would look down because it wasn't fun now. Sometimes it was never even... Seems like it was never even fun back then. Nostalgia is a mind trick. If I'd been there, I'd hate it. It was freezing in the palace. These are not bad lyrics. These are good lyrics because this is a common thing. this idea of thinking about what it would be like. You know, you watch Dazed and Confused and you wish that you lived back in the 70s. Or you watch Back to the Future and you wish you lived in the 80s, wishing you were living back in the 50s, right? That's what Back to the Future is. You watch Back to the Future now and you're nostalgic for a time when they were nostalgic for a different time, all right? That's where we are. But the reality is there was no good time. I remember very, very clearly. I went to Johnny Rockets once. And I went with my friend Mark and my friend Ted. And my friend Mark was like, I love this place. I just love it, you know, because it's like all retro and 50s-y, you know? I was like, yeah, no, I can get it. It's like, it's just cool, you know, the music, it's all kind of, you know, bopping, and it's all like this kind of fun thing. I'm like, yeah. Except the thing is, like, the black family behind us wouldn't be allowed to sit here, you know? Like, we'd have to kick them out, like, or call the police and, like, sick dogs on them and like shoot hoses at them and stuff, because that was kind of the reality back then. That's the kind of reality that we're celebrating by eating at Johnny Rockets. Everyone would look down because it wasn't fun now. I ruined the party, just like Taylor Swift ruined the party, because Taylor Swift sees the romantic ideal of nostalgia and she destroys it. That the 1830s are not great. It was freezing in the palace. She would have hated it. There was no better time. If you think there was a better time, it just means you don't understand the time. If you hate the present and you think the present is worse than the past, it means you don't understand the present. You just have to live in the present and deal with it and do the best that you can. And in 20 years, people will be nostalgic for this. People will be nostalgic for iPhones. I promise you, people will be nostalgic for TikTok. I promise you they will be. They will say, back in my day, we used to just sit on TikTok all day and watch little videos. I promise you that will happen. There is no better time. There is no better time. Taylor Swift points it out, and I guess people hate her for it. I'll save all my romanticism for my inner life. That's what she's saying. Next track is called Thank You, Amy, Antonoff and Dessner. Kind of an odd sort of like pop country deal. The same thing happened on the last album where they did that song, the Daddy, I Gotta Love Him or whatever. So like, it seems like the worst this album gets is when the two of them work together. But I do like the way she harmonizes with herself. I don't know. You know, this is more nostalgia. It's thinking about her past. It's thinking about being tortured by someone named Amy as a kid. And maybe it's a real person. Maybe it's a fictional person. But it's a fascinating idea because she's really saying that she's like that the source of her empire was overcoming these bullies. But it's nice because we have this whole picture of her childhood now. You know, like sitting around talking about when you'd like to be in and watching American Pie on a Saturday night. I much prefer not another teen movie. If you're going to watch a movie, that anyways. And then now we have this sort of torturer and bully. And it's fascinating because it's going back to that question of the bittersweet nature of nostalgia, where she's saying F you to this woman, but also thank you because this gave her the drive. Then we go back to the Heartbreak theme with I Look in People's Windows. This is with a different person, Berger and Antonoff. I don't know who Berger is. Came out of nowhere. Acoustic guitars, kind of busy here. Nice emphatic like string production. Maybe that's why this person's here. I love this idea. So I love the idea of looking in people's windows. I like looking in people's windows too. I'm not like a pervert. I love it. Like I love going for walks around my neighborhood. And there's like the one family where they're always watching Tucker, and it's always kind of disappointing because I actually really like those people, and I feel bad that like people who I know and like and trust are being so easily hoodwinked. And there's like another family where the kids always playing Fortnite, always. And there's the other one, there's the other family where they have like 4 TVs, and one of them's always watching like a Nickelodeon sitcom, the other one's always playing Halo. It's like there's this kind of whole little world here. But this is great because it's about this theme of hoping to see the person you love. And I'm going to put forth the idea that this could be a Morrissey lyric. I am now going to sing the lyrics as though I were Morrissey from the Smiths. So I look in people's windows like I'm some deranged weirdo. I attend Christmas parties from the outside. I look in people's windows. In case you're at the table, what if your eyes looked up and met mine one more time? You know, it's like, it's campy. It's over the top. It's awesome. Then we get to this theme of Magic Woman again, Prophecy, more hand-picked guitar, back to Dessner, very harmonious, played on a super high capo. And it's nice because this magic theme is like she is both a woman capable of doing magic. Like her very existence can change the nature of your luck. She can be the albatross that sinks your ship, right? Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. That comes from the albatross, Coleridge, rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. But she's also the victim of a prophecy, because if those are the kinds of forces that she can be a part of, then they can also control her. And it's a fascinating idea. I don't want money, just somebody who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? You know, what if she's not the chosen one? Can we just get Taylor to go back to Virginia? North Carolina? Where's she from? Alabama? No, not Alabama. I'm going to say Tennessee. I'm going to say Tennessee. Is she from Tennessee? Wherever she's from. You know, just go back there and just be anonymous, just a little small town woman who's, you know, happily married, just chilling. Don't know. Cassandra, another track by Dessner. Piano kind of like, I like how this kind of like slow thumping behind, but again, I just want more drums. And Cassandra, here she is again in that magic woman phase, where Cassandra, if you don't know, from ancient Greece theater, she was this character. She was a prophet who was accurate. She like knew the bad stuff that was going to happen, and people didn't want it to be true, so they attacked her and hated her. So she has this ability to see the future, but no one cares. No one wants to hear what she says. They just make memes about her and make fun of her for having autism. Okay? How dare you? Right? You know what I'm saying? Burn the witch. Burn the witch when when they scream, burn the witch, they're screaming, but when the truth comes out, it's quiet. So this is this whole beautiful cycle of like the person who tells the truth is hated, and so they scream to shut that person up. But then when it turns out that person was right, they're quiet and they don't say anything. This is very true. This happens all the time. If you're in any kind of administration, you say, if you do this, this will have a terrible consequence. Nah, shut up. No, but if you do this, it'll have a terrible consequence. Nah, shut up. The terrible consequence happens. I mentioned the terrible consequence? No, I don't remember. Hey, can't look backwards, you know? Next track is Peter. Little waltz. That's nice. Kind of breaking things up. Another Dessner song. Very gorgeous lilting melody. A little bit less emphatic with her singing. I didn't know what this was about until she sung Lost Boys. I'm like, oh, it's about Peter Pan. So this is sort of back in nostalgia town. Because Peter Pan and the Island of Lost Boys and all that, like, it's this dream of staying young. It's this passion and this joy for the concept of the simplicity of youth. But the thing is, it's a lie. Peter Pan is not a good partner. Peter Pan is not to be aspired to. He's like a sad figure. You said you were going to grow up and you were going to come find me. But it was a promise that was never kept. So all these things are coming together, that like you can't stay young forever. Youth is a place of pain, is a place of innocence, and she's going back there. But you see like the realisticness with which she is painting childhood and youth and growing up. It's astoundingly for an album of scraps that she just threw together off of some hard drive that she had kicking around in her studio. There's a lot of cohesion here. And none of these songs would fit on the first one. Next track is called The Bolter. Again, maybe some fiddle in the back, little bells. Again, more Dessner here. Another story of childhood, another story about this girl who almost drowned and then she's always leaving. And this is maybe the closest to kind of I'm the bad guy style song, sort of anti-hero style song, because it's about why does she always leave. But what's interesting is that the reason that she always leaves is that's her only way to keep herself safe. And that getting out of... So she fell in ice and almost drowned. True story. My brother and my father took me sledding and they pushed me and I went into Clay Pit Pond in Belmont, Massachusetts. I fell right under the ice. It's one of my earliest memories, almost drowning. I remember my dad running down the hill, tearing off his jacket, jumping in the water. You know, I'm the bolter. I'm Tay-Tay. Je suis Tay-Tay. But it's fascinating because it makes essentially all of the uncomfortable places she can be in, all of these kinds of relationships that she might get stuck in, like ice that she's stuck under, and that all these lives that flash before her eyes, it feels like the time she fell through the ice and came out alive. That this childhood moment created a script for her that she's going to be doomed to keep on repeating because there is, as she said, escape in escaping. Beautiful. Again, this could be a hit. If the chorus were produced like a little bit more, this could be a hit. I swear to God, you give this whole album to Max Martin, do Max's version, we'll have like 5 top 10 hits. Next track is called Robin. Mournful piano, and we're back in Nostalgia Town. It's all about the beauty of youth and being young. And I was listening, I'm like, maybe this is like a nephew of hers, or like a little kid, or like a kid of a friend of hers. And it is. It's Aaron Dessner's kid. And it's really nice. And it's the only song that is not, it is the only light song on this album. It's the only happy song on this album. On all 31 tracks, it's the only song I would classify as happy. Maybe Alchemy is happy, maybe. But even there, this is just pure joy about the beauty and the happiness of ignorance. You have no idea. Just that's what she's saying to this little kid. He just loves dinosaurs and roaring and getting muddy and dirty. And she does indicate that the life will get tricky, but he will learn to bounce back just like your trampoline. Okay, haters. I hear you. I hear you, haters. I hear you saying, Skye, that's a bad lyric. Learn to bounce back just like your trampoline. Nope. That's still a good lyric. Let me tell you why. This is for an actual kid. And I predict that this kid has a trampoline. And I predict that this on-the-nose lyric about how life will beat you down, but you can bounce back like a trampoline. I imagine for that kid, at the moment that he hears it, he'll go, oh my God, I do have a trampoline. But then as they grow up, they will have that image in their head when the world tries to keep them down, that they can bounce up like a trampoline. It's the sincere, true sincerity is cheesy as hell. There's no such thing as cool sincerity. Like, you just can't be cool and sincere at the same time. Way to go, Tiger. Higher and higher, wilder and lighter for you. Taylor Swift. Wilder and lighter. That's the way that she's describing childhood. Wilder and lighter. She's not a tortured poet. She has a private jet. I don't care. What? I'll tell you what. You go find someone who has a private jet and you give them, okay, we get every single person in the world who has a private jet and we give them 100 years to write a lyric as good as just this. And this is not even top scale writing on this album, much less her entire oeuvre, right? Way to go, Tiger, higher and higher, wilder and lighter for you. The simplicity and strength of those lyrics, it's beautiful. That's what language can do. That's what it can do. I have a couple teenagers and I have this baby. I have another baby on the way. And when I think about the idea of being wilder and lighter and that it's lightness, that's what youth is. It's lightness. It's the lack of the weight of the world and the pressure and the obligation and all that stuff. That's what you lose. You lose lightness, not just wildness, but lightness. It's great. And then the album ends back with A. It ends with the manuscript, kind of a sparse piano, sort of talking about like, I wish I could have had strollers and baby. If the sex was half as good as the conversation, soon they'd be pushing strollers. She seems to be very sort of obsessed with this potential world that she could have lived in that would have had her as a family, having a family. in the age of him, she wished she was 30 and made coffee every morning in a French press. Afterwards, she only ate kids' cereal and couldn't sleep unless it was in her mother's bed. This great comparison between like French press and kids' cereal. I will say that most mornings, well, not so much lately. I've kind of moved to a yogurt-based breakfast situation. But for most of my adult life, since I turned 30, I would say 90% of the mornings, my breakfast has consisted of French press coffee and kids cereal. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Marshmallow Treasures, what have you. And, it's this song that's, it seems like this is maybe going back to like when she dated someone who was older than her. I don't know, the guy, the Wonderland dude, who cares? It's my least favorite thing of the album is that it ends with this song, except I think I know why. It's because the last verse. The only thing that's left is the manuscript. One last souvenir from my trip to your shores. Now and then I reread the manuscript, but the story isn't mine anymore. Because she's, sharing this manuscript. That, like, now these stories of her life are not just hers, but they are everybody's. So, there's my review. This is the tiger that goes higher and lighter. Do you know what this tiger... You're not ready for what this tiger is. It's a transformer. But what's it going to transform into, you ask? What's it going to transform into? It's the Hamburglar. Hey, tell you what. If you find another music reviewer who ends a Taylor Swift review with a transforming Hamburglar. And also, I thought I'd share this with you. This is my office, That's my Princesse de Clèves poster. You see how big that poster is? See that? It's my beautiful Princesse de Clèves poster. So, if you haven't seen my last video, this doesn't make any sense to you. That's fine. You can do that. All right. Well, thank you very much. These are my Patreons. Also, a friend of mine, Mark Catley, a friend of his sent him my last Taylor Swift video saying, like, you need to check this dude out. Mark Catley is an artist and a friend of mine. He's like, Skye, you've really made it because someone contacted me. So to Mark Catley's friend, what's up? Although you're probably from New Zealand. So, I don't know. How do you say hello in New Zealandish? All right. Well, anyways, until next time, I guess I get to move on and think about something that isn't Taylor Swift. Weird. There's the camera.